The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Confederation buzzed with an unusual amount of agitation. High Commander Kizkut of the Razorclaw Dominion slammed all four of his chitinous appendages onto the polished obsidian table, causing several holograms to flicker. "This is outrageous," he chittered, mandibles clicking in fury. "We are the most feared warriors in the Andromeda sector. Our very name makes lesser species tremble, and yet—" He paused, seemingly choking on his next words, "and yet these humans are calling us adorable." A rumble of agreement coursed through the chamber. Around the massive table sat the galaxy's most fearsome predatory species, the plasma-breathing Volcari, the shadow-stalking night hunters, and the psychically terrifying mind reavers, all of them apex predators, all of them currently being classified as cute by humanity. Ambassador Thorn in Darkness of the Night Hunters projected a series of human social media posts onto the central display. "Observe this atrocity," she growled, her midnight black fur bristling. "They're calling my hunting claws toe beans, toe beans." "That's nothing," rumbled Grand Patriarch Volcox of the Volcari, his magma-like skin crackling with indignation. "They've started making plush toys of our warrior caste. Plush toys. My grandson was gifted one by a human diplomat last week. He sleeps with it every night." The last part was muttered so quietly several universal translators had to recalibrate. High Counselor Zixeth of the Mind Reavers floated silently above his chair, his tentacles writhing in what might have been embarrassment. "The humans in our sector have started what they call a fan club. They say our psychic tentacles remind them of something called a jellyfish and have declared us, and I quote, absolutely precious." "Order, order in the council," Supreme Chancellor Syzibit, an ancient crystalline entity, chimed harmonically. His crystalline form refracted light in what the humans would probably call a sparkly manner, a thought that made him deeply uncomfortable. "We must address this situation with the gravity it deserves. Humanity's inability to recognize our species as apex predators is becoming a galaxy-wide crisis." "Just last week," a Shadow Weaver representative hissed from the darker corners of the chamber, "a human tried to scratch behind my audio sensors and called me a good boy. I am a harbinger of terror, not a... They call it a pupper," Kizkut supplied helpfully, then immediately regretted knowing this information. The chamber erupted into chaos again. Proposals flew back and forth, everything from demanding formal apologies to suggesting galaxy-wide intimidation displays. But deep down, every member of the council knew it was already too late. Humanity had seen them, and instead of cowering in fear, they had done something far worse. They had deemed them cute. The Supreme Chancellor's crystals chimed for attention once more. "There's more," he announced gravely. "We've received word that humans are now organizing something called an intergalactic pet show." The silence that followed was deafening. Commander Vexithor of the Zeraxian Imperial Battle Fleet stood proudly on his command deck, all 8 feet of his scaled magnificence reflecting the starlight. His fleet of 20 warships had just surrounded a lone human exploration vessel. It was time to show these newcomers why the Zeraxians were the most feared predators in the Cygnus Arm. "Open communications," he growled, baring his triple rows of serrated teeth. "Let them gaze upon their doom." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the human bridge crew. Vexithor drew himself up to his full height, unfurled his retractable claws, and activated his bioluminescent threat displays. "Oh my gosh, look at those scales, they're like sequins," squealed Lieutenant Rodriguez from the science station. "Can they change color? Please tell me they can change color." Vexithor blinked all 3 sets of eyelids in confusion. "Yes, but that's not the point. We are the mighty Zeraxian—" Captain, interrupted Ensign Chen, practically bouncing in his seat. "Their teeth glow. That's so cool. Hey, do you think they purr?" "We do not purr," Vexithor roared, his scales shifting to a threatening crimson. "We are apex predators, scourge of the star lanes. Look, they do change color." Rodriguez clapped her hands in delight. "They're like mood rings." Captain Helena Chen of the U.S. Discovery leaned forward in her chair, a warm smile on her face. "Your species is absolutely magnificent. Those retractable claws, they must be perfect for keeping them sharp and clean. And your jaw structure, I bet you have amazing bite force metrics." "The highest in 3 sectors," Vexithor preened automatically, then caught himself. "Wait, no. You're supposed to be terrified. This is a show of dominance." Speaking of shows, Captain Chen continued enthusiastically, we're organizing an intergalactic pet show next month. Your species would definitely take first place in the most elegant scales category. Would you be interested in participating? The mighty Xeraxian commander sputtered, his scales cycling through a confused rainbow of colors. His second-in-command, Admiral Yezex, leaned in close. Sir, Yezex whispered, what should we do? Our threat displays seem to be having the opposite effect. If anything, they look excited. Look at their little whispers, Ensign Chen stage whispered. They're like friendship noodles. We are not friendship noodles, Vexthor bellowed, but his hearts weren't in it anymore. Somehow, watching the humans coo and awe over his most terrifying features had completely deflated his intimidation routine. Tell you what, Captain Chen offered, why don't you dock with us? Our xenobiologists would love to learn more about your species. We've got some excellent environmental enrichment programs, and I'm sure we could find some toys that would really show off your hunting prowess. Toys? Admiral Yezex perked up despite himself. Like prey simulators. Down, Admiral, Vexthor hissed, but it was too late. The human crew was already exchanging delighted looks. Did you see that? They perk up just like cats. Rodriguez was practically vibrating with joy. I bet they'd love a laser pointer. 2 hours later, against all protocols and his better judgment, Commander Vexthor found himself watching in mixed horror and fascination as half his command staff chased red dots around the human ship's recreation deck. Even worse, he was fighting the increasingly powerful urge to join them. The Council will never believe this, he muttered, just as Captain Chen approached, with something called a feather wand. Want to give it a try? She asked with a knowing smile. I promise we won't tell anyone. Vexthor looked at the toy, then at his thoroughly distracted crew, and finally at his own reflection, showing his scales had shifted to an embarrassingly eager purple. Just 1 pounce, he grumbled, for diplomatic relations. The galactic extranet was never the same after humans gained access. What started as a sophisticated network for sharing military intelligence, trade agreements, and scientific discoveries had devolved into something far more insidious. Cute alien pictures. Xeraxian zoomies was trending across 3 spiral arms. The once feared battlefleet's attempt to demonstrate their high-speed attack maneuvers had backfired spectacularly when humans declared it the most adorable thing ever and started sharing videos set to upbeat music. In the Night Hunter Embassy on Earth, Ambassador Thorn in Darkness scrolled through her social media feed with mounting horror. Her latest diplomatic threat display had garnered 2.3 million likes and countless comments. OMG, look at those murder mittens. Who's a fierce little shadow stalker? You are, yes you are. Can we talk about those ear tufts, though? The ambassador's fur puffed up in indignation as she toggled to another channel. The humans had created something called Rate My Predator, where they shared pictures of various apex species and rated them on floofiness, boopability, and snuggle factor. Meanwhile, in the Razorclaw Dominion's primary hunting grounds, High Commander Kutskut faced an unprecedented crisis. His warriors couldn't complete their traditional hunting rituals because humans kept trying to pet them. Report, he chittered tersely to his chief of security. Sir, we've had to suspend training exercises in sectors 7 through 12. The officer clicked nervously. The humans have discovered our molting season is approaching. They're setting up grooming stations. Grooming stations? Yes, sir. They're calling it Operation Scale Care and insisting that, and I quote, proper maintenance of our danger noodles is essential for optimal happiness. Guzak's mandibles twitched. And our warriors are lining up for appointments, sir. The humans have these brushes that get right under the auxiliary plates, and not that I would know personally, sir. The situation wasn't any better for the Mind Reavers. Their latest attempt to broadcast psychic terror waves had resulted in humans declaring their tentacles absolutely squishable and requesting plushy versions in various colors. High Counselor Zixith had to call an emergency session after discovering a human had created an entire virtual reality program called Tentacle Pets. It let users virtually pat Mind Reavers and watch their psychic auras change colors with happiness. It had 5 stars on the App Store. The Volcari weren't spared either. Their fearsome reputation for breathing plasma had somehow transformed into humans wanting to use them as high-end space heaters. Grand Patriarch Volcox received daily requests for warm cuddle sessions. Did you see this? Volcox grumbled during an emergency conference call with other predator species leaders. He projected a human social media post showing a young Volcari warrior being scratched under the chin, their usually terrifying plasma glow dimmed to a comfortable warm purple. "At least they're not making merchandise of your species," Ambassador Thorn in Darkness replied glumly. She held up a plushy version of herself complete with light-up eyes and a button that played hunting growls. "They call it Nightlight Buddy." The Shadow Weavers had it worst of all. Their ability to merge with darkness, once used to strike terror into the hearts of their prey, had been rebranded by humans as advanced hide-and-seek. There were now official Shadow Weaver hunting ground tours where humans would bring treats and clicking toys to make friends with the Void Kitties. Even the crystalline entities weren't safe. A human jewelry designer had created a line of inspired by exhibit accessories, claiming their terrifying forms were literally just big sparkly wind chimes. The predator species' frustration reached new heights when humans started a certification program for apex predator care specialists. The 12-week course included modules on understanding your predator's love language and advanced scritching techniques for multiple appendages. Commander Vexathor, still trying to live down the laser pointer incident, found himself unwillingly consulting on the Xeraxian Care Guide chapter. "It's purely to ensure accurate information," he insisted to anyone who would listen. The fact that he had approved an entire section on optimal scale scratching patterns was strictly classified. The final straw came when humans started organizing predator playdates, where various species were invited to socialize and exercise in a controlled environment. The event description promised enrichment activities and complimentary battle treats. Even more alarming was the waitlist to attend. "We have to do something," Kiskut declared during another emergency council session. "This has gone too far. We are fearsome predators, not. "Snuggle buddies," supplied a Shadow Weaver representative who quickly dissolved into shadows when everyone glared at them. "Perhaps," suggested Zibit carefully, his crystals chiming thoughtfully, "we should consider a galaxy-wide show of force. Remind humanity why we are to be feared, not petted." The council chamber filled with murmurs of agreement, but they were interrupted by a notification on everyone's devices. The humans had just announced the first annual Galaxy's Most Huggable Predator competition. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of several council members secretly checking the registration requirements. The first annual Intergalactic Pet Show was held in the massive Crystal Dome of New Geneva, Earth's premier diplomatic center. The event had drawn thousands of attendees from across the galaxy, though not quite in the way the predator species had intended. Commander Vexathor adjusted his diplomatic sash for the 100th time, trying to ignore the fact that it looked suspiciously like a show ribbon. He was here as an official representative of the Xeraxian Empire, definitely not as a contestant in the most iridescent scales category. The fact that he'd spent extra time polishing his scales that morning was purely coincidental. "Welcome, everyone," the announcer's voice boomed through the dome, "to the event that's bringing together the galaxy's most magnificent species. Please welcome our distinguished panel of judges." The judges, a mix of human xenobiologists and self-proclaimed predator enthusiasts, took their seats. One of them was wearing a shirt that read, "I boop danger noodles," with a cartoon Xeraxian on it. Vexathor pretended not to notice it was anatomically accurate. High Commander Kiskut chittered nervously from the diplomatic waiting area, which looked suspiciously like a show ring. "This is clearly a misunderstanding. We're here to discuss serious military matters and, are those battle-grade nutrient spheres?" A human handler was indeed offering premium treats, specially formulated for each species. The Razorclaw warriors tried to look dignified as they accepted their share, but their excited mandible clicks gave them away. "First up," the announcer declared, "the Night Hunter category. Judges will be evaluating ear-tuft fluffiness, shadow-merging technique, and overall midnight majesty." Ambassador Thorn in Darkness found herself being gently ushered into the show ring. "I'm here to negotiate border treaties," she protested, even as her fur automatically puffed up in response to the judges' admiring gazes. "Magnificent display of territorial pride," one judge noted, marking something on their scorecard. "Extra points for the intimidation fluff." The Mind Reavers weren't faring any better. Their attempts to project diplomatic authority were somewhat undermined by the psychic light show competition, where their tentacles were being judged on color coordination and wavelength harmony. "Look at that synaptic synchronization," a judge gushed as High Counselor Zixith's tentacles swirled in patterns of outrage that happened to be absolutely mesmerizing. "Perfect execution of the Aurora pattern." The Valkyrie delegation's protest that they were living embodiments of plasma destruction lost some impact when it was revealed that they'd been secretly practicing their heat control displays. Grand Patriarch Volcox's precise temperature modulation won him a special ribbon for most controlled plasma performance. "It's for diplomatic records," he insisted, carefully attaching the ribbon to his ceremonial armor. The Shadow Weavers entered their designated ring with menacing grace, ready to demonstrate their fearsome ability to become one with darkness. They hadn't counted on the humans installing show lighting that made their movements look like an elegant dance performance. Outstanding shadow choreography. The crowd went wild as a Shadow Weaver representative accidentally created what looked like a perfectly timed light and shadow ballet while trying to find the exit. The crystal entities faced a unique challenge when they were entered into the light refraction elegance category. Supreme Chancellor Exhibit's attempt to deliver a stern speech about dignity was somewhat undermined by the rainbow patterns he was casting across the dome. "Unprecedented prismatic harmony," a judge declared, "and such precise geometric formations." Things really got out of hand during the talent portion of the show. Commander Vexithor's demonstration of battle tactics somehow turned into a popular dance routine when set to human music. The video went viral before he even finished. The Razorclaw Warrior's precision drilling display was declared synchronized choreography, complete with scorecards for technical execution. Kizkut's protests died in his mandibles when he saw their scores. But the real chaos began during the freestyle event. A young Volkare, attempting to intimidate the judges with a plasma burst, accidentally created a heart-shaped flame pattern. The resulting oars from the crowd could be heard 3 sectors away. A Mind Reaver's psychic scream of frustration manifested as a stunning Aurora Borealis effect, earning them an immediate nomination for Best Light Show. Their tentacles curled in embarrassment as the audience applauded. The event reached its peak during the awards ceremony. The predator species representatives found themselves draped in ribbons, their protests growing weaker as the prizes got more specific. Best Battle Floof, Most Harmonious Hunting Screech, Outstanding Predatory Elegance, Most Boopable Threat Display, Exceptional Murder Mitten Maintenance. Commander Vexithor, now sporting 6 different ribbons and a Best in Division sash, tried to maintain his dignity. "This is clearly a diplomatic achievement," he announced to his crew, who were too busy comparing their own ribbons to reply. The humans had even created special award categories that played to each species' strengths, while completely missing their intended threatening nature. The Night Hunters won Most Luxurious Fur Maintenance rather than Most Terrifying Stalkers. The Mind Reavers took Most Enchanting Tentacle Display instead of Most Psychically Devastating. The Shadow Weavers earned Most Graceful Void Dancers rather than Most Lethal Ambush Predators. As the event concluded, treats were distributed, photos were taken, many of which would later become popular memes, and the predator species found themselves facing an uncomfortable truth. They had actually enjoyed themselves. "This is obviously a sophisticated form of psychological warfare," Kizkut declared during the after-party, absently accepting a brush grooming from a certified handler. "We should analyze their techniques and, a little to the left, please." The humans had managed to turn the galaxy's most feared predators into willing participants in what was essentially a glorified pet show. And somehow, despite all logic and dignity, they were already discussing next year's event. "Same time next cycle?" Captain Chen asked Commander Vexithor, who was trying to hide his new favorite feather wand in his diplomatic pouch. "Purely for strategic observation," he replied, his scales shifting to a pleased purple that completely betrayed his words. The emergency meeting of the Predator Species Alliance was held in the most intimidating location they could find, the volcanic caves of Nexus Prime. The atmosphere was perfect. Bubbling lava, jagged rocks, periodic explosions of steam. It would have been completely terrifying if the humans hadn't already declared it super cozy and suggested adding fairy lights. Order, order in this crisis meeting, Supreme Chancellor Zizibit chimed, his crystals deliberately dulled to appear more menacing. He'd learned his lesson after the disco ball incident at the pet show. Commander Vexathor slouched in his chair, still wearing his show ribbons. He'd tried to remove them, but the humans had used some sort of advanced adhesive. At least, that's what he claimed. "We must address the dire situation at hand," High Commander Kudskut began, trying to ignore the new automatic grooming response his mandibles had developed whenever humans were mentioned. "Our species are losing their edge. Last week, a razor-claw warrior delayed an invasion because it was, and I quote, treat time. The Night Hunters face similar problems," Ambassador Thorn in Darkness reported glumly. "Our newest recruits are rating potential hunting grounds based on scratchable surfaces rather than tactical advantages." The Mind Reaver's representative floated nervously. "We've had to redesign our psychic attack patterns because humans kept saying they looked like underwater ballet. Now our warriors are requesting choreography lessons." "At least you still have some dignity," Grand Patriarch Volcox rumbled. "The Volcari youth are practicing temperature control, not for warfare, but to become what humans call living space heaters. They're offering comfort warming services." A shadow weaver materialized from the darkness, their voice haunted. "We found one of our most feared assassins playing peekaboo with a human child. They were using advanced shadow melding techniques to pop out of different corners. The child gave them a sticker. They're still wearing it." The council chamber erupted into chaos as more reports flooded in. Xeraxian battle fleets coordinating their attacks to create what humans called light shows. Crystal entities deliberately arranging themselves into aesthetic formations. Razorclaw warriors participating in enrichment activities. Mind Reavers offering relaxing psychic massage services. "We must take action," Skut declared, slamming his appendages down. "We need to remind the galaxy why we're feared. I propose a simultaneous show of force across all sectors. Something so terrifying that humans will finally recognize us as the apex predators we are." The council agreed, and Operation Restore Fear was launched. It was a spectacular failure. The Xeraxians' intimidating battle formation was interpreted as synchronized swimming. The Night Hunters' mass shadow-stalking demonstration became the galaxy's largest game of hide-and-seek. The Mind Reaver's psychic terror wave was recorded, set to music, and turned into a popular relaxation app. "The humans have even started rating our threat displays on their social media," Zizibit reported, projecting the latest trending posts. "Saw a Volcari plasma burst today, 10/10 would roast marshmallows. This Razorclaw's battle stance is literally just a big stretch. #yoga goals." Mind Reaver tentacles do the cutest little wiggle when they're trying to be scary. Commander Vexathor, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. Perhaps we're approaching this wrong." All eyes turned to him. "Has anyone else noticed that since humans started treating us like pets, our lives have actually improved?" A guilty silence fell over the chamber. "My scales have never been healthier," he continued, his color shifting to embarrassed purple. "And those enrichment activities they designed, they're actually excellent combat training." More confessions followed. "The grooming really helps with molt season. Their treats are perfectly balanced for our nutritional needs. The belly rubs are surprisingly therapeutic. Those toys actually sharpen our hunting reflexes." The truth they'd been avoiding finally surfaced. Humans weren't just anthropomorphizing them, they were actively caring for them, and doing a surprisingly good job of it. "But we're supposed to be terrifying," Skut protested weakly, even as he absently played with a human-designed puzzle toy. "When was the last time any of our species actually had to fight for resources?" Thorn in Darkness asked. "The humans provide everything we need and constantly work to improve our quality of life. They've even started designing space stations with climate-controlled areas for each of our species," Volcox admitted. "My plasma chambers have never been more comfortable." The council sat in contemplative silence, broken only by the soft purring of several members who would later deny making such sounds. "So what you're saying," Exhibit chimed slowly, "is that we've been successfully domesticated." "Not domesticated," Vexathor corrected quickly. "We've entered a mutually beneficial symbiotic relationship, with some light petting involved." The Predator-Species Alliance faced their greatest crisis yet, accepting that maybe, just maybe, being humanity's pets wasn't the worst fate in the galaxy. Next order of business, Kiskut chittered resignedly. Should we officially recognize treat time as a diplomatic ceremony? The motion passed unanimously. 6 months after the Great Pet Show incident, a remarkable discovery shook the galactic community. Dr. Zhao of the Human Xenological Institute published a groundbreaking paper titled The Apex Advantage: Correlation Between Human Affection and Predator Species Societal Development. The findings were undeniable. Species under human care showed a 300% increase in technological advancement, a 500% boost in resource allocation, and an unprecedented 1,000% improvement in quality of life. Turns out, being humanity's pets had unexpected perks. Commander Vexathor, now sporting a custom-designed comfort collar for diplomatic purposes only, presented the data to the Predator Species Alliance. "Look at these numbers," he said, scales shimmering with excitement. "Since humans started managing our territories, interspecies conflicts have dropped to zero. They're literally solving all our problems with treats and belly rubs." The evidence was everywhere. The Razor Claw Dominion's new human-designed battle stations included premium scratching posts and automated grooming stations. Their warriors had never been more efficient or well-groomed. High Commander Kiskut had to admit his troops' performance improved dramatically after humans introduced positive reinforcement training, though he still struggled with the concept of "who's a good boy?" The Night Hunters discovered their shadow-stalking abilities enhanced tenfold after humans introduced stealth training games. The fact that these games involved chasing laser pointers through obstacle courses was strictly classified information. "But what about our fearsome reputations?" a Shadow Weaver representative asked, even as they lounged in a human-designed void hammock. "Observe," Grand Patriarch Volkok said, projecting a galactic status report. The Vulkari, once feared as plasma-breathing destroyers, were now revered as premium protection forces. Their contracts had tripled since humans started advertising them as free security and heating solutions. The Mind Reavers found their psychic abilities in unprecedented demand, not for warfare, but for entertainment and therapy. Tentacle meditation sessions became the galaxy's most exclusive spa treatment. Even the crystal entities adapted, their once terrifying forms now celebrated in art and architecture. Supreme Chancellor Sizibit had reluctantly accepted his new role as Chief Ambience Coordinator for major diplomatic events. "Face it," Ambassador Thorn in Darkness purred, stretched out in a patch of sunlight. "Humans didn't just domesticate us, they upgraded us." The evidence was undeniable. Predator species now controlled 70% of galactic resources through completely legal adoption papers. Their territories were protected by humanity's surprisingly extensive pet protection laws. Other species started requesting human care, leading to the Protected Status Species Act. The final revelation came during the second annual Intergalactic Pet Show, as Commander Vexathor accepted his Best in Galaxy ribbon, which he totally wasn't proud of. A minor trade dispute broke out in the audience. Before any predator species could intervene, Captain Chen stepped forward. "Excuse me," she said pleasantly, "but are you bothering our floofs?" The disputing parties took one look at the assembled predator species, now officially under human protection, and immediately signed a peace treaty. Did humans just weaponize our pet status?" Kiskut asked, mandibles clicking in amazement. "Better," Vexathor replied, preening as his human handler offered a celebratory treat. "They transformed us from feared predators into protected status symbols. No one dares threaten a human pet." The Predator Species Alliance convened one final time to officially acknowledge their new status. The meeting was held in a human-designed conference room complete with heated floors, scratching posts, and comfort lighting. "All in favor of accepting our role as humanity's beloved apex pets, say purr," Exhibit chimed. The vote was unanimous, though several species denied making any pet-like sounds during the proceedings. The galaxy adjusted to the new normal. Humans continued collecting predator species continued enjoying their improved quality of life, and everyone else learned an important lesson. Never underestimate humanity's ability to turn the most fearsome creatures in existence into beloved pets. As Commander Vexathor remarked during the closing ceremony of the pet show, his scales glowing with contentment, "We wanted to be feared as predators, but somehow ended up with something better. We became humanity's cherished companions. Also, he added, checking his schedule, it's treat time. The galaxy would never be the same, but maybe that was exactly what it needed. Less fear, more pets, and the occasional belly rub. After all, who wouldn't want to be humanity's pet when it came with premium treats, unlimited cuddles, and absolute galactic immunity?